Now that my heart rate has dropped and my body no longer thinks I'm dying, let's talk about that game because lots happened in it. So we'll break it down on today's Locked On Blue Jackets.
You're Locked On Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster, here to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly about your favorite team and mine, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Before we get things started, I want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day every single day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms and over on YouTube. I was going to let you know, just before we get started, every day is, you know the drill by now, newcomers to live shows. I have a very small brain in a very big head, and I can only do one thing at once, and unfortunately that one thing at once is talking. So if you have comments, questions, etc., please throw them into the chat. We'll talk about the game first. First and second segments, that's what we'll do, and then the third segment, we'll dive into that comment section, and we'll answer some questions. We'll get into your guys' thoughts then. So I'm not ignoring you, I promise. I can just only do one thing at once, and that one thing is talk. So, and even that apparently I'm struggling with. That was a very stressful game. I really thought, and maybe this is a me problem, I was convinced they were going to blow it again. That final, minute and a half, minute 45 of the game, where they just decided that they were going to ice the puck every 4 seconds for the rest of regulation. I was like, I'm going to die. I'm straight up going to die. I'm sitting here, my watch is buzzing at me like, hey, why is your heart rate so high? It's 3 a.m. Are you okay? And I'm like, no, I'm dying. Thank you for checking watch. But I thought there was lots of good in this game. Obviously, you know, getting the goal scoring going is always fun. That third line showed up big again, which I super wasn't expecting, because I'm pretty sure they matched up against the McDavid line all night. So, like, they didn't come out great in terms of, like, shot attempts or anything like that. But they did come out big in terms of goals scored. They outscored whoever they were matched against 3-1. And they created almost 1.5 expected goals all by themselves and only gave the McDavid line, if it was the McDavid line, half a goal-ish of offense for them. This is all at 5-on-5. Now, the Oilers did a lot of damage on their power play. They didn't score on the power play, but they did a lot of that they created a lot of chances, right? And I think a lot of that flurry came in that, like, the late 4-on-4, and then again with the goalie pulled at the end there. I'm trying to figure out. Yeah, they matched up against the McDavid line or the Draisaitl line. Sometimes both of those guys at once. It was a weird game for matchups because the Oilers, they do that thing, right, where they if they're struggling in a game, they go nuclear mode, right? And they just send McDavid and Draisaitl out together, which is very stressful, and I do think it should be illegal. But you can't deny it's effective, right? Like, if I was an Oilers fan, I would be, you know, the sicko at the window saying yes, ha, yes, you know? So I respect it, but I do hate to watch it. But it looks like the Coil line matched up for the most part against either of those two guys and did a pretty good job. You know, I tweeted kind of flippantly before the game, like, can we just not have any highlight reel goals from McDavid? And then I followed that up with, oh, it looks like we're matching the Coil line against McDavid, so I don't have high hopes. And hey, maybe I don't know puck, right? That third line I thought was great. And this might be a controversial take. That second line, the Monahan, Delbar, Belouse, Johnson line, I thought was excellent. Obviously, they didn't score themselves. They were on the ice for a goal, but they were extremely good defensively. They didn't create as many high danger chances as the Coil line, and obviously, you know, the goals help in terms of that. But they outshot the Oilers 5-1 when the Monahan line was on the ice. 11-3 shot attempts. So none of those players scored, but I believe they were on the ice for, I want to say, was it the Matejchuk goal? I believe anyway. So Del Bobaluz and Monahan with the assists on that Matej shot goal. So I'm going to count that as a line for that goal, which is great news. I thought that line was really, really good, really effective. Again, didn't create a ton of offense, which is maybe not what you want from your second line, but they gave up basically nothing, which is against the Oilers is not an insignificant task, right? Sometimes all you can hope for is that you don't give the Oilers too much. Top line, no complaints, right? I continue to have no complaints about the top line. Adam Fantilli, the rumors of his demise were greatly exaggerated. He's got 6 points in 4 games since being elevated to that top line. He's got goals in 3 straight games. I believe he is now up to 3rd on the team in scoring, and I believe tied for 2nd in goals as well. So maybe, just maybe, Adam Fantilli is back, right? Again, he looks like a different player, and I don't know if it's confidence, I don't know if it's line mates, I don't know if it's the fact that the pucks have finally started to go in. Because that was the thing, right? It wasn't like he wasn't creating before. The pucks just weren't going in the net. Now the pucks have started going in the net. That shooting percentage is kind of regressing back to the norm, and he looks great. I had a lot of fun watching that Fantilli line all night. I could talk for hours about Gromachenko, because every time I watch him, I see something else new that I like, right? Like he is not the best skater in the world, but he's very good, right? He's not the fastest skater in the world, but he gets things done. I am shocked at how many times he just doesn't give up the puck, right? Like he's in the corners or whatever, and he does some kind of weird little twiddly thing with his stick. And he comes out of the corner with the puck somehow, and he does that 4 times a game, and it's really, really fun to watch. And I think it's a really underrated part of his game, right? Like, obviously, we know he's got the shot. We know he's a wonderful passer. We know he's a decent to good skater. His stick handling, I think, is excellent, and just his ability to keep the puck is a really, really underrated part of Marchenko's game. I also didn't hate the 4th line. This is the 4th line that I've kind of been looking at for a while. I think it's got some size, it's got some speed, it's got some skill, it's got some defense. Miles Wood, I wish, was 10% less chaotic, but overall, I had no real problems with the forwards. And I'm gonna maybe get some heat for this. They probably used the 3rd line a little more than they had to, but it was scoring, right? You put the hot line out there. And again, I was ready to criticize the choices at the end of the game for, putting Charlie Coyle, and I believe Sillinger during the 4-on-4. And then obviously they had that 3rd line out there, to end the game as well, which was partially, I think, a coaching choice, and also partially just that they kept icing the puck and they got stuck out there, right? I was really hoping that Mathieu Olivier would get the hat trick. He tried, fell just short. I think that would have been really, really funny. But like I said, I have no real complaints about the forwards. The defense got a little creative sometimes. I do think that is kind of a little bit just what it's like to play the Oilers, right? I thought Jet was excellent through the first 2 periods, and then the 4th goal I would have liked back. I understand that he probably didn't see all of it, and then so what would that would have been the 5-4 goal, yeah, the 5-3 goal, just a bad turnover from the Blue Jackets, ended up in the net. Again, I would have liked maybe something there, but I thought that Jet, though the numbers likely won't back it up, I thought he played well. I thought he was, again, great in the first 2 periods, had a little bit of a small meltdown in the 3rd period, but huge saves on that late Edmonton power play, which would have been let me pull up where the power play was. It would have been the Olivier penalty. So just in the 3rd period, I feel like the Oilers had about 17 shot attempts on that, and he was fantastic. I thought. So would I have wanted a couple more saves from him? Yeah, absolutely. But they got the win, and he kind of overcame the ghost that haunted him, the ghost of Connor McDavid that haunted him on Monday. Today he was haunted by the ghost of Leon Draisaitl, which again goes back to it feels unfair that if you're done with McDavid, then you just get to face Draisaitl instead. But that's beside the point. Let's talk a little bit more about the game. I want to talk about that third period a little bit actually, because they really, really came close to blowing it, but they didn't, which is key. So we'll do that in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. Welcome back to first of all, I'm going to tell you about Monarch Money. Or first, I'm going to tell you all about Monarch. Let's be honest, most of us can't even name all of our financial accounts, let alone what they're worth. Between 401ks, savings, and investment, it's easy to lose track, and that can mean leaving money on the table. That's why I started using Monarch. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. I am a nightmare. I love to buy myself a $7 latte if I feel like I've had a rough day, and Monarch really kind of made me aware of just how many $7 lattes I was buying to make myself feel better. And I won't say it shamed me into doing that less, but it did shame me a little bit, which was really helpful for just like my general budgeting, and also not spending $50 a month on coffee, or more than that sometimes. So Monarch was great for me. It could be great for you. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarch.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarch.com. Code LOCKEDONNHL for 50% off your first year. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. We're going to talk a little bit more about the game, and then I'm noticing the comments are ticking higher and higher. So if you're new, you missed the start, hello, welcome. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the game, and then the third segment is when we're going to dig into the chat section. And if there's questions or anything in there, then we'll get into them then, because I have a very small brain and a very big head, and I can only do one thing at once, and that thing is talk. So let's talk. The third period was extremely stressful, right? The Blue Jackets go into it up 4-2, make it 5-2, after that really strong penalty kill from Jet Greaves and co. And I'm like, okay, there's a 3-goal lead here. Maybe 12 and a half minutes is enough. It is not enough time for the Oilers to mount a comeback. Joke's on you. They scored 30 seconds later. Which again, it's just a bad turnover from Dmitry Voronkov, but like that goal really felt like it tipped the scales in a worrying way, right? The momentum was still kind of with the Blue Jackets, but after that, it slowly started going back towards the Oilers. Didn't really jump up in the Blue Jackets' favor for the rest of the game. Obviously they scored the 5-4 goal, and then that last 7 minutes was just a nightmare to watch. It was so stressful. I hated it. Great to get the win out of it, but God, I hate it so much when teams play like they're on the penalty kill for the entire back half of the third period, right? And I haven't seen it a lot from the Blue Jackets this season. I saw it a lot last season, and it was stressful then, and it's stressful now. And I understand that you're nervy about throwing the puck away. I understand that you want to basically just play keep away as much as you can, but keep away doesn't really work in hockey the same way it works in soccer, right? If you're up 1-0 in soccer near the end of the game, you just pass it around the back four, right? You can't really do that in hockey. You can't just pass it from defenseman to defenseman and hope that the other team isn't going to come in and get the puck. So I understand that you want to try and that's hard to do, right? But it's also really, really stressful to watch, especially when it's the Oilers. It's really, really stressful to watch the team just ice the puck, get halfway through the neutral zone, and then go for a change. And then, oh, no, the puck's back in our own zone, and now we have to defend for the next, 30 to 45 seconds until we get a whistle, right? It is not a great way to play the game. It worked out this time. didn't work out on Monday, right? And I think that was the frustrating thing for me, right? Was like I watched the Monday game and I saw exactly what happened, and then it felt a lot like we were sailing straight towards that again. In the third period of this game, like they make it's 5-2 Blue Jackets, everything's looking good. I'm still wary. They make it 5-3. I'm still wary. They make it 5-4, and I'm like, right, I'm gonna make peace with my God. Because if they blow this lead, I will be meeting him sooner rather than later. And maybe that's melodramatic, but just because it burnt them this time doesn't mean it's a system that works, right? They're going to have to figure out how to close games in a less stressful way, right? Like you blow what, two separate 2-goal leads on Monday against this same team. Today you almost blow a 3-goal lead. It's 5-2 and the game ends 5-4, right? Like it shouldn't have been that close. The Oilers are dangerous, but you can't keep giving them all of that time and space, and they gave them a lot of time and space in that third period. I don't really know what the answer is to fixing this, right? Like we talked about this a little bit yesterday about how insane the icing is, of just consistently icing the puck or just launching it up the ice and hoping for the best, and we saw a lot of that in this game. I am less ornery towards it when the net is empty, because like, yeah, sure, try and hit the empty net. Especially at this point in the game, like it's the Oilers, you might as well just throw the puck away from them and kill as much time as you can. But when their goalie's in and you're not trying to hit the empty net, then the constant just like throwing the puck away and icing it still drives me insane. I do think that is a big part of what happens late in games, right? Is that you try and turtle and you give up on your zone exits, and you just kind of like, okay, well, we'll throw the puck away and hope for the best. And sometimes hoping for the best is not a great strategy, in my opinion. Like I said, worked out today. Not going to keep working out, right? Like I will say, the Oilers are like numbers on the page aside right now. The Oilers do have one of the more high octane offenses, especially when you look at, the fact that you've got McDavid and Draisaitl, right? That is not a duo that you can just throw the puck away with. And it's also not a duo that you can kind of like back away and just kind of hope for the best with. Like, not every game is going to be like this game. Not every game has 2 of the top 5 forwards in the game, like potentially 2 of the top 3 forwards in the game, depending on who you ask. But it still doesn't. I don't love to watch it, right? Sometimes needs must. Sometimes you have to ice the puck or you'll keel over on the ice. But I just wish they would do it less, And I don't even think this is like a young team panicking type thing, because the guys that are throwing the puck away are also full adults that have been in the league for almost a decade or more than a decade in some cases. It is, I think, systemic. And that worries me, because I don't know that they're going to get coached out of that. If it's something that's happening in the system that Dean Everson has given them, I don't know that Dean Everson is going to coach them out of it. So I guess we'll find out if they could, we'll see what the next game is like. It's going to be against the Rangers. We're going to do a little bonus episode Saturday morning about the Rangers. We'll see what's going on with them. They just put a big hurt on the Tampa Bay Lightning, which was kind of unexpected to a lot unexpected. They finally won at home, and they've got a 2-game winning streak going right now. The goaltending is figuring it out. So I don't know. We'll talk about that on Saturday. The Rangers don't have as high flying an offense as the Oilers do. They also give up way fewer goals. So if the Blue Jackets can get a couple of goals, hopefully sitting on a lead will be less terrible to watch. I still don't think it's the right decision, but it hopefully will be less terrible to watch. So that's my thoughts on the game. Mostly enjoyable feels wrong because I spent most of the game feeling like I was going to die. But great to get a win. Starting another streak. Like, finally, I say finally, they got revenge for the game on Monday that they should have won and didn't. So let's keep it rolling, right? Like I said, we'll talk about the Rangers tomorrow, or Saturday, depending on when you are listening to this live show. We're going to take another quick break, and then when we get back, I'm going to dive into the comment section. So if you have comments or questions or anything about tonight's episode or about anything in general, that's what we're going to do in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I want to tell you about Drip Drop, because when I'm hydrated, everything just works way better. I'm more focused, I've got more energy, I'm in a better mood. Like, my skin is better. That's been a big plus for this. Since I've been using Drip Drop, it is doctor-developed hydration that keeps me running at full power no matter what my day looks like, and it's not just your average sports drink. It's got 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of leading brands, and it's trusted by medical professionals, firefighters, and over 90% of top college and pro teams. I've been taking mine to the gym with me. I get up stupid early in the morning. I chug a bunch of Drip Drop on my way to the gym, and it tastes good. It's like a little treat. I love water. I love the taste of ice water, but sometimes you want to have a little treat, and it's almost like you're tricking yourself into thinking that, oh, I've got a little juice before my gym, and that is also really, really enjoyable to me. And that's why I love Drip Drop. It helps me feel sharper, calmer, and just better overall. And right now, it's offering podcast listeners 20% off your first order. Go to dripdrop.com and use promo code LockedOnNHL. That's dripdrop.com, promo code LockedOnNHL for 20% off. Stock up now before the heat hits hard, and keep your body and mind performing at their best with Drip Drop. I've also got to tell you about Game Time. Hockey season's officially here. Nothing beats in the arena for those opening games, but let's be real. Getting tickets can be a total headache. Between waiting in queues, surprise fees, and prices that jump right before checkout, it is easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer on your team. And that's where Game Time comes in. It's the app that gives fans the advantage. It is your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NHL tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. I use it all the time when I'm in San Jose. We get a ton of Sharks tickets from there. We get Barracuda tickets from there in the AHL as well. I used it when I was in Toronto last month. We had great seats. We got to see what the views looked like before we bought them, and there was no hidden fees at checkout either, which I love. Take the guesswork out of buying NHL tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but that's code LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. Let's finish off by diving into the comment section. Let's see. Yeah, a lot of comments about stress, about grey hair. Brandon McNeil says, all things considered, not bad getting 3 points from the Oilers this season. I agree. Like, in a vacuum, right? 3 points from the Oilers is great. I just wish that the game in Edmonton had been better, right? Because this should have been 4 points. This should have been a season sweep. I will take 3 points, don't get me wrong, but it was a really, really frustrating game in Edmonton that should have ended much better. Sticks and Tapes says Chinakhov looked good in his check, seemed to struggle on the transitions from defense to offense most of the game. I don't disagree. I think that is partially again, I think it's a systemic thing. I think that Chinakhov is a player that shouldn't be in the defensive zone for a lot, right? He is a guy that should be in the offensive zone. Like, if you have to put him in the neutral zone, fine. But because he's on that fourth line, I feel like a lot of his shifts start in, like, either in transition or not in the offensive zone, right? So I agree that he seemed to struggle, but I also think that he shouldn't have to be transitioning from his own zone to the other zone as much as he does. And that is, again, maybe that's coping. Maybe that's me being a Chidakov, like, biased person. But I thought he looked good. I would continue to enjoy if they put him on the second line with Monahan and Kent Johnson. I really liked that second line tonight. Don't get me wrong. I thought Del Babaluz looked really, at home there. And I'm not saying that Del Babaluz deserves to go, down a line or whatever, but I would really love to see what that line looks like of Chinakhov, Monahan, and Johnson, because I do think it would be a lot of fun. Led Smith 93 still decided to be fantastic tonight. Not a bad night to do that. I agree. I don't know what it is about that third line. I don't know if it is just the fact that I keep cyberbullying that line that makes them do this, but if that line keeps showing up and the Fantilli line decides to continue to be the Fantilli line, which is, scoring in basically every game, that seems sustainable. A 70 game goal scoring streak for Adam Fantilli? I say he does it. But if that third line keeps doing what that third line is doing, I'm gonna have zero problems with it. I've never had an issue with that line offensively. My issue is mostly that I don't think that line is as defensively solid as Dean Everson seems to think it is. But hey, if they're going to keep scoring, I am much, much happier. Nick B wants to know, what are you hearing with what Boone's actual injury is? At this point, with how injury prone he is, I wonder how much longer he is going to last. I haven't heard a ton about it. Basically, I assume as much as you guys have, that he's going to be out for a while. I don't think it's from a hit or anything. Like, I went back and watched some of the tape, like, right before he got hurt, or right before they realized that he wasn't on the bench. And I wonder if it is that his back has flared up. I believe that it hasn't for a while, but his obviously he has, I believe, a degenerative back condition that is being managed. And it's been fine for a couple of seasons now, and I wonder if that is what's flared up. Obviously, he had the shoulder last season where he missed a ton of time. The season before that, I believe he broke his hand or his jaw, or potentially both in the same season. But I wonder, I do think it might be his back, but I haven't heard anything either way. I do suspect when they say not short, my guess is he's probably going to be out for at least a couple of months, which is not ideal because Boone Jenner is one of those players that is, his underlying stats himself and his own play is like kind of normal. He elevates players around him typically, which is a good depth guy to have. I don't think he's not a top 6 guy. So like the fact that I feel bad that he's injured, but his injury is going to open up that top 6 role for players like potentially Chidakov, potentially, Luka Del Babaluz. I do think he's probably going to be out for at least until the new year would be my guess. Z-Man J says, it's maddening that the Oilers are basically just McDavid and Draisaitl, but they're still this hard to put down. They're just like that. The good news is we're done. We're done with the Oilers. We don't have to think about them until next season. Hooray. That is a team that we are done with, which is great. I love to get that out of the way early. That's not a team that you have to worry about showing up again later in the season to like ruin momentum or whatever. It was done 3 days, and you're like, right, we've gone to Edmonton. They've come to Columbus. Goodbye forever. Sticks and Tape says, Matejchuk being glued to Leon early on was crazy. And then Z-Man says, Matejchuk really coming into his own. Yeah, I think Matejchuk really was like a little bit traumatized by that McDavid highlight goal in Monday, because I thought he had a great game tonight, and I thought he did a really good job of simplifying it and not biting on the crazy things that those guys do, right? Like I have been really, really impressed with Matejchuk basically since he hit the NHL, but like especially this season, I think that Matejchuk is really, really coming into his own, which is really, really fun to watch. I know that this is not news to anyone. You all know how I feel about Denton Matejchuk. We love Denton Matejchuk here on this show, but yeah, I think after the rough game he had on Monday, I think, well, probably A, he watched a lot of tape, and B, I think he probably had a lot of thinking about what he did And he really bounced back in this game in a way that was really, really, really fun to watch. Dan Good says, this team needs to practice a lot on puck handling, passing in the defensive zone. That is their big problem. Fully agree. And it's maddening because this team is like I feel like this team is a pretty good puck handling, passing team, typically, right? But for some reason, they get in the defensive zone and they forget how everything works. And again, I go back to, is this a coaching and systems thing as opposed to a player thing, right? Steve McCarthy runs the defense, has done basically since Brad Larson was here, I believe. Everson likes him. Everson liked him so much that he took him to the World Championships to be his assistant coach there for Team Canada. And it made me feel like I'm being a little bit gaslit about how good the defensive coaching on this team is. But I do think that's partially what it is. Partially it might be that the players also just kind of panic in the defensive zone. But it is, I agree, Dan, like that's their problem. If they figure out how to get like more than one clean zone exit in a game, then this team is going to be in good shape. We're going to finish off. Got a couple more things. Nick B says they need to get some momentum on this homestand. They need to win at least 5 of the next 8 left in this month to be in contention for standings. I agree to an extent. Like they need to build momentum on this homestand. They've got the Rangers coming up. They need to win. They've got the Canadians coming up who are going to be, well, they've lost 2 in a row. They don't come to Columbus until I think Monday night, so they probably have it. They will have at least one game between now and then, so they might figure it out then. But they're stumbling a little bit at the minute. The Rangers is a one that you have to win, right? They are a point ahead of the Blue Jackets in the standings right now. They've got 20 points. They are 9-7-2. Blue Jackets are 9-7-1. Blue Jackets need a regulation win here, and it doesn't get easier, right? The East is weird. Blue Jackets are a point, like I said, they're a point out of a wildcard spot right now, currently held by Detroit and New York with 20 points each. And then 3 teams have 19 points, including the Blue Jackets. So Philadelphia and the Panthers are the other 2. And then the Islanders, the Lightning, and the Leafs all have 18 points, and then the Capitals have 17 points. So like it's so tight there. And again, you can't control what other teams do. You can only control what you do. So you have to just worry about yourself, right? Don't. I spent a lot of time last season scoreboard watching, and it didn't make me feel better. So watch the Blue Jackets. Again, you can't control what the Blue Jackets do, but if you stress about how other teams are going to play, then that, to me, feels like it's just less fun. If you're like, well, we won, but also so did they, and we need them to lose and them to lose and them to lose. I don't know. I find it less fun. Ask me about that again in late March when we're doing the stupid playoff race where we need to win every single game and we need Montreal to lose every single game. But they're in a good place right now. The East is weird. They're 17 games in. It's a marathon, not a sprint, right? I do agree. They need to get momentum on this homestand. Yes, I think they need to win it. They need to, get another win streak going. But I don't know that it's, they don't need to win every single game to be in contention. But it sure would help, right? Anyway, that's kind of all I've got for tonight. It's super late here, so we're gonna call it. Thank you for coming to hang out. I appreciate all the comments and the interaction. I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to respond to everyone's comments, but I appreciate all of y'all anyway. Like I said, we will be doing a little bonus episode Saturday morning. We'll talk about the Rangers and how they're doing, and that's gonna be next up here on Locked On Blue Jackets. Thank you for listening to this episode, for making it your first listen of the day every single day. Thank you for helping make us the #1 sports podcast network. You can find me on Blue Sky at JAKOBFORSTER. You can find the show at LO_Blue Jackets on Twitter, LO-Blue Jackets on Blue Sky, and we're also over on TikTok now. So if you're a TikTok person, check us out over there. And until tomorrow, make sure you stay Locked On.